Okay. It's been a while, and I just gave a very short warning to everybody, so I guess I might well be talking to myself for a bit, but that's all right. No real plan. Um, I guess I'll wait a minute or two, see if anybody pops in. Ah, there, we have somebody who's given a thumbs up. Um, yeah, I suppose that I was somewhat inspired to come and say hello. Nothing really much to say. It's been a pretty hectic couple of weeks. As you can tell, I'm unshaven, but washed. And yeah, I've just had a lot of stuff to deal with. And recently, the father of somebody quite close to me passed away as well. So let's just say that we've gone into quite a bit more prayer recently. There's the High Priestess, my inspiration for every time that I go after heathens, heretics, and crypto Jews. Oh, good. You get a notification for my channel. That's excellent, because I thought I was being shadow banned there for a bit. Ah, Horse Mumbler is here, the good old sniper. Yeah, like I said, I don't really have a plan. Oh, it's already 10 of you, so if you've got questions, fire them away. I'll get to all of them pretty much. Like I was saying, I've just been a pretty heavy week. Work, kids, personal stuff, and life in general. Hello, Woolly Ram. But some good news as well. There is a small but powerful little group of zealots that are making plans with me to start up a proper little Catholic enclave. So we'll see whether that kicks off properly. If it does, that'll be excellent. It'll be in meat space, not in the digital world, so that'll be pretty good. Of course, I was recently just made aware that we have a charlatan on Social Galactic that has accused both myself, Dances with Logos, and a couple of other people who generally follow my zealot Catholic course of being, oh, you didn't say anything about the persecutions of Christians in the Middle East. Of course, the guy who said this calls himself Lord Mountbank. Now, just to remind you that a mountebank is a charlatan who sells phony medicines from a platform. That's the Wikipedia definition. But I don't think it applies just to medicines. It's very well known. So Lord Mountbank, so he considers himself a lord of charlatans and acts pretty much like a crypto Jew. So, you know, somehow I'm not wounded in the depths by his outrageous lie that I've never commented on the persecution of Christians in the Middle East. I mean, it's actually in writing in one of the books. So yes, Dilo is indeed a straight up savage. Go stretch. Indeed. she's awesome. She's very quick-witted and takes no prisoners. Of course, she's got that little bit of Aztec blood that means she's quite happily gonna chop somebody up, cut them open, and eat their heart. Just, because it's a sunny day out. So, yeah, I wouldn't mess with her. She's very cool. So, all right. Yeah, I'm gonna rely on you guys to come up with a couple of topics or something. Hugh Keller blasphemes, saying that thankfully the saxophone did not make an appearance. No, and that's only because my children are already deep in asleep and I don't want to give them nightmares. But otherwise, I would like nothing better than a long solo session of saxophone. In fact, I'd do a whole hour stream just of me on the sax. That would just be. Oh, which, by the way, one of the new favorite songs of the little dude, and I gotta say, I'm partial to it myself because we seem to have the same taste in slightly chocolate colored, frizzy haired, peroxide blonde type women. It's an old weakness. So, Fleur East, whose song is, I forget the name, is it like Play That Sax or something like that? And basically it's a funny play on words on, some boy running game on her, and she's basically saying, but can you play that sax? Which is, of course, a euphemism for being able to use certain other appendages of a musical nature. And, well, what can I say? I obviously can play that sax. So both me and the little Viking enjoy watching that little video. So, yeah. And David says he hasn't been on SG in a while. Was the guy accusing you of siding with the persecutors? What's his point? No, there is no point. Out of the blue, he just complimented some random guy about the fact that he put that little Arab letter for the letter Christian or whatever. He had that in his little avatar or whatever. Because, that's exactly the same like going to the Middle East and fighting the Muslims that are killing the Catholics. You got to put a little symbol on your avatar and that's it. You've done your job. You've saved Christians. So anyway, on a random stream of comments where that comes up, he then says, you did more than the Kurgan and Dancer with Logos and Dome Guy and a couple of other people who didn't say anything about the people in the Middle East. Take note. It's like, oh, what? Let me just. Is that how a gamma behaves? Oh, would that perhaps have anything to do with the fact that a bitch slapped you severely for your idiotic comments on Protestantism and your ignorance of Catholicism, or outright lies? Because if you act like a crypto Jew, if you talk like a crypto Jew, and if you speak like a crypto Jew, well, maybe you're a crypto Jew. So that was it. Just no point. You just like, yeah. Which testing the Lord of Charlatans? Yes, I've done the test on him, and well, he passed it like any demon would, acknowledging that Jesus is Lord. That was the sum total of his acknowledgement, which Protestants do have the same basic parameters for being a Christian as demons, recognizing that Jesus is Lord. Well, demons do that, so Horse Mumbler says, sounds glorious. And he's put a link, I don't know to what. I don't know if that's Fleur East's music video. Hail Grand Inquisitor. Hello JB14. David Lawrenson says, if Rodney Stark was a Catholic, would his literature work as a Christian historian qualify him for sainthood? Well, I don't know that it would. Being a saint is a pretty... it's not really something you get for just writing a couple of books. He's a historian. He's a good historian who likes the truth and is honest. So, he's a good guy. Chris Covey Animation says, I just found out it's mortal sin to read Machiavelli. Day ruined. Machiavelli was an idiot. I know that Vox and other people dote on him, but it's kind of like Sun Tzu, the master of strategy. Sun Tzu was a bug guy, and Machiavelli was a moron. Machiavelli got told by some captain of an army or whatever, some guy who had men under him, said, well, you write all this fancy stuff, but I don't think you know how to even command these guys to, march around the square. And Machiavelli said, "Oh, of course I can." So this general or whatever it was said, "Well, there you go, boys, do what this guy says." And within minutes, he couldn't even get them to walk around the square because he fucked up all his orders and whatever. Machiavelli was a theoretical guy who wrote some theoretical stuff. And, it was at a time when nobody wrote much of anything, so, oh, well, he must be a genius. I've read Machiavelli. It doesn't say anything very particularly enlightening. Same like Sun Tzu. It's like, oh, yeah, well, said a couple of okay things, but so did Clausewitz, and I much prefer Gorin no Sho. Miyamoto Musashi's book of tactics or strategy is, I think, a much better work than Sun Tzu's stuff. Just a clip of the Sachs Marine meme. Oh, I might have to go and check that. I don't know how to check that. I'll go and look at it after. He used the lowercase h on him at Woolly Ram. 100% confirmed crypto Jew in my opinion. There you go. Dilo just knows how to get them. And on that note, I mean, this is kind of wrong because I had milk in here. So no, I can't do that to cognac. That would just be sacrilegious. So let me just wash out this glass. There we go. And I'm going to toast to that. Which test proves it once again. Indeed, that is a lowercase h error that only a crypto Jew would make. Xenostart says the prince is obvious to anyone who watches an hour of Senate proceedings with some context. Well, there you go. And Chris Covea says that makes me feel a lot better. Yeah, honestly, dude, don't waste your time on Machiavelli. He was a fucking cretin. He's just one of these like theoretical gammas that like, hey, indeed, this is how you take over the world. Well, why the fuck aren't you doing it then? No, like I said, read Gorin no Sho. But if you get, it's called the Book of Five Rings. Gorin no Sho is the Japanese title. But if you're gonna read the Book of Five Rings, read the translation by Victor Harris. All the other translations are pathetic compared to that one. Victor Harris is a scholar of Japanese literature and art and has done an amazing work of translating the Japanese very, very, very correctly. And David Lawrenson says, did you watch the Rudy Giuliani Sidney Powell press conference going through the election fraud evidence? Towards the end, they said they had evidence of global voter fraud in several countries. No, I'm aware of it. I didn't watch it. I don't really care. Just waiting for the results. The effective. I was going to say rechristening, but no, doubly ascension to the cherry throne of the God Emperor. That's what I'm waiting for. Mandy Jones says, just got out of Mass and I saw you're live. Yes. Well, welcome, Mandy. Oh, Woolly Ram says, am I missing something? Well, you see, Woolly, that whole being a Jew for a while, obviously. I'm not sure why a lowercase h makes his confessions invalid. As a Catholic, you never really refer to God, Jesus, our Lord, with a lowercase letter, even when you're using the pronoun him. If the him refers to Jesus, you capitalize it. And David says, I usually prefer studying the life of a winner than strategy self-help books. Yeah, there you go. I guess you could say Machiavelli was the first, like, you want to win a war? I'll show you how. For one simple trick, you know. Xenostart says, even the Alexander Bennett translation, that's what I currently have. Learned a lot either way. I've read, I don't remember if Alexander Bennett was one of the ones that I read, but I've probably read about 5 or 6 different translations, and probably about another 3 or 4 in different languages as well. And Victor Harris outperforms all of them by a good long margin. Good, good. Oh, Wooly, by the way, our battle priest mentioned you and said that he was eager for you to get out of Israel as soon as possible to get baptized. I explained your situation to him because I don't think he was necessarily had understood it or was very aware of it. But so just so you know, he's rooting for you to get baptized as soon as. He did say you've got some perhaps slightly wrong ideas about Catholicism, and that you know quite a lot, but that perhaps your interpretation of certain Catholic concept has been a little bit affected by well, where you live, how you were raised, that sort of thing. Which it's a common flaw for everybody, myself included. A lot of people overlook the capitalization in their passion to communicate. Yeah. Nah, he's a crypto Jew. That's it. He's been judged. That's it. It's been done. Don't make me wear the Pope hat. Unseen11 says, hey Kurgan, do you have anything you plan on giving up as penance for Advent? Well, those kind of things I keep to myself. I do believe that my relationship with God is basically for me and God. So I also think it's somewhat improper to discuss these things in a public manner. If you're a Catholic and you're going to do your penance, do your penance. If you're going to give something up for Lent, for example, that sort of thing, it's on you to do so. I don't think it's necessarily wrong to share it with other people. It's not my thing, not my style. A direct question from our young Chris Gove animations. Why do you say that Bishop Sanborn is a bishop of power and not one of piety? Well, it's kind of a longish story, but the long and the short of it is that Bishop Sanborn has a mission in London. He started the mission in London. And before I go on with that, I need to explain something about Catholic dogma of jurisdiction. During an interregnum, in other words, a time when there is no valid pope on the throne, on the seat of Peter, you basically, bishops and priests have no jurisdiction. They have no, normally when a pope is in place, it is a pope that gives the bishops their authority to be bishops, and therefore their jurisdiction in their diocese. But in a situation as we currently have, bishops are deemed to have authority pretty much over the region where they live, but they do not have official authority. And certainly there is no jurisdictional authority by a bishop that doesn't even live in the country that he pretends to have jurisdiction over. Now, Bishop Sanborn wanted to change the, shall we say, the, what do you call it, the administrator of the mission in London, which is fine. I don't particularly care one way or the other who does the work, but he picked a guy that, quite frankly, I wouldn't pick to make a cup of tea because, is just a full-blown gamma. But regardless of that, I didn't initially have any issues with it. Unfortunately, it stirred up a bunch of interfamiliar issues. You know, the guy he picked has got a history with the guy that was the administrator and his wife, and they're related. You know, there's a whole bunch of family stuff going on in the background there that it's not really my business to talk about, and no real point in saying it. But be that as it may, you know, Bishop Sanborn acted in a way that was pretty much authoritarian, let's say, which again, I personally didn't have a problem with. In fact, I was kind of for it originally. I was like, well, yeah, maybe he doesn't have any jurisdiction, but whatever. You know, he kind of started it, and he probably has a right to say whatever. Unfortunately, the individual that he wanted to appoint as the new administrator, he's also, like I said, a nosy, infiltrating little gamma who joined a group of Catholic mothers and wives who basically were talking in their own little chat group about, you know, meeting up, having get-togethers with the kids and whatever, to have a Catholic community, and infiltrated there. And when one of these women said, "Oh, you know, what about if we ask one of the priests to be our like spiritual advisor, just to advise us on how to go about, you know, maybe what Catholic books to read to our kids, or you know, what activities, what catechisms to do, and so on." And this guy said, "Oh well, no, you can't be doing that. You shouldn't be able to choose any priest to do whatever you want, you know, to talk to you. No, not without Bishop Sanborn's approval." And all the moms were like, "The hell are you talking about? We can go to whoever we like." Quite rightly, which they can. And so this guy started like a little, you know, typical gamma, oh, let's you and him fight kind of shit. So because of that, I became vociferous as well, and so did a couple of other people that reminded, you know, much more politely than I would or than I did. They reminded Bishop Sanborn that he has no jurisdiction, and that we will go to whichever priest we want, and that we will take advice from whichever cleric we deem fit, and we will choose who's the administrator of the mission as we see fit, as we are indeed entitled to. Upon this, Bishop Sanborn basically wrote a public letter, and then he excluded people who did not bow to his authority from receiving sacraments. This is a breach not only of a worldly canon law, in other words, he has no jurisdiction, so he has no authority to say, I have the authority and you do what I tell you. He doesn't have that authority. By canon law, he does not have it. Now, he admitted this in his public letter, but then he came up with a fictitious idea of having moral authority. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as moral authority in canon law. And while on a human level you can understand that, you know, he started the mission and therefore he should have a say, that does not mean that he has jurisdictional authority, and he does certainly not have the authority to tell anybody what to do or how to do it with regard to the running of that mission. So that's what he got told by myself, not so politely, by other very erudite and very polite Catholics who also made a public statement quoting canon law, quoting previous church history and so on, and very politely asking him to, you know, sort of rethink his ways, which he didn't. Now, when you remove sacraments from the faithful because they are unwilling to go along with your breaking of canon law, that is more than just a breaking of canon law in a worldly sense. It's actually the breaking of canon law to a divine level, because you're denying sacraments to the faithful. So I understand why he's done that, and I understand what his reasoning is, and I understand that he believes that he is doing what is best for the continued growth of the church. But in actual fact, it has had precisely the effect that I predicted it would have, and that I told him it would have, which is that that mission is not doing so well. They're not managing to have priests come as often as they were. They're not managing to have Mass properly either. While those who stuck to the correct way are managing to receive sacraments, are managing to have Mass, and so on. So that's why he's a church of power guy. He is very much into money, making sure money is collected. Once again, I don't really have a problem with that, because you need money to do things like buy churches, buy land, do things that are good for the faithful and good for the church. But there's always this dichotomy between the church of power and the church of piety. Being a layman and being what I would consider, let's say, the military arm of the church, which always in theory should be subject to the spiritual arm of the church. The church militant has got, in theory, the clerics as the spiritual leaders and the barons, knights, etc. as the physical protectors of the faith. Historically, that's always been the case, and of course sometimes these military physical protectors get a bit big for their britches or don't like a certain pope, so they want to oust him and put their own pope in place and whatever and what have you. So being a layman and pretty much of that class of person, I certainly understand and appreciate the need for being practical. But I'm allowed to. I'm a layman. My mistakes essentially condemn me more than anybody else. Possibly they condemn those men that might follow me in my error, but they do so of their own free will and not because I have any authority over them, but rather because I say this is what I'm doing and maybe they see things the same way I do. After all, the Crusaders killed a shitload of people, and they had to do penance for those killings, even though they were justified killings, even though they were protecting the faith. So, we're a group of people that do wrong because it's necessary sometimes. So that's what I mean by church of piety. Church of piety are real priests. Church of piety is like the priest that baptized me and that married me and that confirmed me and that baptized my children. That guy will travel hundreds of miles and go through hell just to baptize or save one soul. Doesn't do it for money, I promise you that. Not concerned with receiving a penny for his troubles. Under very difficult conditions and doing everything that you would expect a true priest to do. He's a real priest, that a warrior, a spiritual warrior of note. I deeply respect that man. He's more than a decade younger than I am, but he's chosen a very difficult and yet divine and needed road. And you have to respect people like that. And a person like that, a priest like that, will always, always, always have my shield long before any bishop of power, no matter the trappings of their whatever they've achieved. I don't care if that priest has only saved 3 souls, and I guarantee you it's a lot more than that. That priest has saved more people than most human beings, I believe. But even if it were just 3, but he's a true priest, he's a priest of piety, I will always be on their side, long before I'm on the side of any cleric of power. You kind of need both, but I definitely have a preference. I hope that's explained it. And Bully says he's certain he needs some proper catechizing. Well, who doesn't, mate? Who doesn't? Dances with Logo says, I was being a little facetious, Bully Ram, but it wouldn't surprise me if I was right. Indeed. Small h, heathen, crypto-Jew. It's obvious. No, it's confirmed. That's it. No more pronouncements. Xenos Star says glasses or contact lenses, especially in the context of marksmanship. Miss my 2015 vision. Oh, dude, I'm practically blind without my contacts. I prefer contacts just because the glasses give me a headache. I've had my nose broken a few times, as you can tell. Probably it's not the pretty pristine you can see. I've got like a crushed septum and all that. So glasses give me a headache after a short time. But yeah, I do everything with my contacts, and The cool thing about being really good with martial arts is that, as long as I can put a hand on you, or as long as you're in the same room with me, I don't even need to see that well. I can feel where you are, and that's good enough. Just got to get close enough. That's it. Oh, and by the way, as far as marksmanship goes, a few months ago, or more than a year ago, actually, when I went to see my dad, I got a rifle out there, a 300 Win Mag, that I've fired very few times, but it was purpose built, and with normal standard factory ammo, which my dad only had like a half a box of because he didn't really expect me to come there and want to shoot and whatever. I fired 2 bullets out of it at a target 400 meters away with no sighting in. I mean, the rifle had been sighted in by my dad before, and we'd done that before, but it was like a few years before, and it just sat in his safe. And yeah, at 400 meters, hit the target both times. Chest wide thing. So, and with that rifle, I'm actually, I never thought it would be possible for me, but I'm actually pretty certain that with a bit of practice and match ammo, at a kilometer, you don't want to be on the other side if I got that rifle in my hands. Is there a good, besides also Xenostart, if you're talking about marksmanship, long distance marksmanship, the scope can be adjusted for your eyesight. You don't even need contacts or glasses. You just set it for your eyes. Nobody else will be able to see a damn thing through it, but you can set the scope so that it works for you. David Perkins says, is there a good reference for the connection between Judaism and the occult dualistic religions? They both come out of Babylon around the same time. Well, Judaism today is essentially Talmudic Judaism, which are the Pharisees, and they Gnostics, the Kabbalah, all that stuff. It's essentially the occult sort of knowledge. So I would say, yeah. He says, there is a connection, but nobody's ever brought it up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know of anyone specifically bringing it up, but Willie Ram says, why do you think Judaism is dualistic? From my experience, it is nearly monoistic. No, I would disagree, Wooly. I would say it is absolutely dualistic because they're lawyering with God. They believe God is there, and then they can argue with him like lawyers. The whole point of putting a timer so that it switches the light on for you, so you haven't done it, so haha, you can have the light. It's, yeah. Well, thank you, Dilo. Okay, I'm glad that explains it pretty well. I don't go on about it or whatever because that sort of thing could easily be misinterpreted as, oh, look at the set of candidates, they all fight with each other. Bishop Sanborn's still a valid bishop, it produces priests, but, he's an American. And ultimately, Americans treat everything like a business. It's all about the money. And, they've got a very different attitude to Europeans. If you've ever worked with Americans and compared it to working with Europeans, you'll know what I mean. It's a very different kettle of fish. The Protestantism inherent in Americans is quite, I would say, quite obvious and quite disturbing, really, in its worldliness when it comes to money and business. Hello, Finnish Bear USA. And Chris says, do you think Trump will end up winning? The whole thing is so confusing. I just want it to end. Yeah, I do believe Trump will end up winning. But if he doesn't, it's not gonna make me lose too much sleep. It just means we're further down the path to hell than I assumed. I knew that the whole election was going to be a shit show. I personally expected it to result in a civil war. I pretty much still do, regardless of the outcome. I might be wrong because it seems like the support for Trump was actually genuinely so overwhelming that I think the deep state and the Soros of this world are gonna be coming up pretty short when and if the God Emperor rises to the cherry throne again. I don't think they have the manpower and the money, and I might be wrong. There's some very wealthy individuals, of course, Bill Gates and people like that are, and Soros, they're deeply, deeply into it, but I just don't think the will is there. And I know that the numbers are not there. The numbers are certainly not the crazy lefty side. I mean, there's a shitload of crazy people and brainwashed people, but I think there's a shitload of people with guns in the States that are on the right side. So I don't know. A certain tribes makes good lawyers. There is no such thing as a good lawyer. You can make a good communist with a bit of lead, but lawyers, I think, are toxic for the earth. Even after you try and make a good lawyer, they're just scum of the earth, and they're really a not needed evil. And Poster Child says it's not confusing at all. The Dem facade fabricated votes so egregiously that it became obvious. Exactly. It really is that simple, Chris. So just stop watching CNN, dude. Like, you have to understand how deeply you're affected by the propaganda that is 24/7 being fired at you every time you switch on an electronic gadget. So go out and chop some wood. I believe you're in Canada, so you probably need to stay warm. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 36 minutes in. So either you're going to fire some good questions at me soon, or I might just go to bed. I'm going to give you a few minutes to come up with some good content for me. This is a live stream where I'm using you guys to entertain me rather than the other way around. David says they make much better money changers. Odd skill set, but oh well, the worldly world runs on money. That's, you called that one right. And Chris says, yeah, my parents watch it a lot. It's kind of hard not to hear it. Yeah, but dude, you've got to learn to see the facade. You've got to learn to see the lie. It's like when a magician shows you how the trick works. Does it fool you anymore? And you could drop some little seeds for your parents. Just drop little hints, just tiny bit of rhetoric that is steeped in pure dialectic truth. Those are the best ones. That's why people like that Lord Mountbanks freak the fuck out months down the line, because I just dropped a nuke on him about Catholicism versus Protestantism, and it just shat in his brain and sits there growing a tree that he can't get rid of. Which is why 5 months down the line, he's like, trying to throw little darts at me. Top 5 materials for burning heretics. One of my favorite subjects, start. Now, I'll tell you an interesting story with a bit of etymology for the Italian language. A very good friend of mine, who unfortunately is somewhat of a communist pacifist, oh no, I can't even think of owning a gun kind of guy, but he is a very well read and a student of history, amazingly, or at least of some history anyway, who explained to me that, you see, in Italian slang, you'll call a fag a finocchio. Now, finocchio is actually the name for the vegetable fennel. The fennel, which, by the way, I like eating fennels, the vegetable, not the fags. Okay, just to be very clear. And I never knew why they were called that. It's like, fennel is a really cool vegetable. I like it in my salad. Like, why would they just use that word? Now, according to this friend of mine, apparently, the fennel, I believe, can grow to certain proportions where it gets the bit that sticks out of the ground becomes woody. and can burn, but burns very slowly and very badly, which I believe because it's a pretty, it's a very watery plant, let's say. Now, I don't know if that actually becomes wood or if they chopped off those bits and added it to the wood, but apparently they added it to the wood to make it burn slower, so that the faggots, which, by the way, where the faggot comes from, because faggot is another word for a bundle of sticks. Where do you use a bundle of sticks? When you're going to put bundles of stick at the base of the stake at which you're going to burn a flamer. Why are they called flamer? Because they get burnt at the stake. You can see how it all comes back to it. Now, why, is it true that in the Inquisition they just burnt anybody who had a slightly wavy wrist at the stake? No. Only 165 child rapists were burnt at the stake in the whole of the Inquisition, of the Spanish Inquisition. 165 of them. I do believe I have the number in my book. Yeah, which I don't have lying around, but there you go, page 81 or 82, something like that. And these guys that were burned at the stake or killed in any way because they had raped children. Now, keep in mind that back in those days, somebody of 12 or 13 was considered an adult. So you're talking about men who raped literal little kids, and they got burned at the stake for it, or somehow killed, which is just and right and correct, and we should immediately bring back the laws that allow us to burn pedophiles at the stake in the public square. But there you go. In Italian, the word finocchio is used because it took longer to burn them, which is of course a merciful thing because it gives them longer to contemplate hell and therefore potentially repent truly in their heart and therefore have a chance to go to purgatory, where eventually, after they've been burnt out of all their sin, they indeed will enter the beatific vision with the rest of the true Christians. Okay. Stranger Danger says, good evening, better late than never. Well, yeah, not if you're a pedo. Stranger Danger sounds like a pretty fucked up name. So, what have we got? David Lawrenson says, do you believe that the incredibly fast growth of Christianity in China will defeat communism in that country within the next 80 years? Oh, I believe the Three Gorges Dam popping will certainly fuck China up pretty bad. And I think that's going to happen at some point. The Chinese are kind of a bug people, so I don't know how Catholic their Catholicism actually is. I think it's some form of churchanity that is a stronger churchanity than the fake Bergoglian, heretic, Molochian churchanity, but I don't know that they're actually sedevacantists or sedeprivationists. Bully Ram says the larger pattern emerging from leftoid behavior is truly unreal. They really do believe in magic, that words and patterns can override reality. Yeah, they do. It's pure on, full on magical thinking. And the millennials are spectacular. I've seen it at work. I've seen it with people that I used to work with and so on. It's quite astonishing, really. I would say frightening, except I truly believe that actual slow-moving zombies would be more dangerous than these people. Don't get me wrong, they're extremely dangerous because there's so many of them, and they're so stupid that they're so easy to divert to do whatever you want if you're an unscrupulous fucker, which of course the people that educated them as such absolutely are. So, Runner Bean. Now there sounds like a man with a mission who jumped that river, swam across it or the fence, and just kept on running. Runner Bean. It sounds like a good Mexican name. And he says, hey Kurgan, how important do you think it is to do work, a career that contributes to the good, beautiful, and true? Well, it's important. I don't know that my work necessarily does that. I've been in construction for many years. certainly left a lot of landmarks around cities in the world. But is it good? I don't know. I suppose people need homes and buildings to live and work in, I guess. But it's not, it's a job. But what my grandfather told me many years ago was like, look, everyone needs to work. Now, if you can find something that you also enjoy doing, well, you've hit the jackpot there then, son. So he was right. Strive for it. But I mean, my thing that I enjoy doing is writing books, sharing my ideas, and so on. I would like to make videos as well, films. Well, not necessarily for me to do it. I don't really want to learn all that shit, but I've got a lot of good ideas that I think would make amazing films. Just don't have the people to help me put it all together. Although I do need to get back in touch with James Fox Higgins. So, well, hopefully one of these days we'll get the documentary done. Finnish Bear USA says, could you explain the view of the nature of the host and communion in the various types of Christianity and what the correct view is? Well, there is only one correct view, and that's the Catholic view. Everything else is wrong. It's as simple as that. I don't know how else to explain it to you. Read your New Testament. The Protestant nonsense idea that Holy Communion is a meal is absolutely ridiculous if you actually just read the plain words in the New Testament of what Jesus says about it. It's really quite obvious. But yeah, I don't want to just skip over it, but you really need to get a good catechism book, a good Catholic catechism book that's done or printed before 1958. I believe in English there is a very good one, or I've been told it's very good. I've not read it myself. I can't remember the name of it. But try to get Try to get a book on Catholic catechism that's been printed before 1958, and you should have a decent way to answer a lot of questions. Chris says, my grandpa was a communist, but he owned a gun, which is based enough to counter it with communism. No, it's not. Communists always had guns. That's how they killed 100 million people in the last not even 100 years. The communists have killed more people in 100 years than all the previous religious wars put together since we've started to measure history. So don't go communist. They always try and murder a shitload of you. Finnish Bear. Trump most likely won Minnesota minus the fraud, which is amazing. Trump has won California minus the fraud, which is more than amazing. It's fucking astonishing. David Perkins says, okay, I have one. Which country do you like to work in the most? In America, there are a lot of highly mediocre German managers who I detest. Oh, German managers are absolutely, completely fucking useless. Of all the people that I've ever worked with, the Germans are without a doubt the most incompetent morons. I don't know, there's something like 193 countries in the world. I haven't worked in every single one of them. I think you can make a decent way of working in any country. It's like anything. You can make a decent life in pretty much any country, just about. I think the current Great Reset wanting to be set. I'm looking at my world map up there, and I wouldn't want to work in China. I wouldn't want to work in Australia. And I don't know, I'd probably pick China before I pick Australia, to be honest. Really can't stand Australians. Kazakhstan was actually really pleasant to work in. I think Russia could be both difficult and amazing, or really great. And it would definitely be a cool place to work in if I wasn't already married. But I am, so. I don't know, there's plenty of places in Africa that could be dangerous, really bordering on deadly, to very interesting. But you have to have a particular kind of way of thinking to want to live or work there. I think Brazil could be quite interesting. Maybe a lot of South American countries could be quite interesting. I just haven't been to many of them extensively. I think Canada would bore the living fuck out of me, as would Switzerland. I wouldn't want to work in any of the northern countries like Norway, Sweden, those fucking cold places, Greenland. I mean, who the hell wants to live there? Jesus. Although I have always wanted to see Alaska when I was a kid. When I was like 7 years old, I'd opened an atlas and I said, I want to see these countries. And I've been a little bit frustrated because one of the things I wanted to see was the Arizona crater. And I went there and they didn't let me fucking walk around because, whatever, it was like closing at that time and we missed it by like a couple of minutes. And I thought the guard at the gate was like trying to take the piss. I nearly had a fight with him. And then I realized he was really just scared to lose his job, because if he had let me through the door, he probably would have lost his job. That's when I realized America is a fucking police state run by morons and populated mostly by morons. But, good-natured morons, but morons nonetheless. Fat ones. I don't know. I think maybe Mexico would be a real shithole in many places, but I think there's an opportunity for you to also live really well in places like that. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you can make a pretty decent living anywhere. I wouldn't want to live in India, no matter how much money you paid me, or Egypt, or other shitholes like that. But that's about it. Okay. Wooly Ram says, do you think public corporal punishment would improve current society, or are we too shameless for correction? Um, I don't necessarily think that, because I think public corporal punishment would be taken up by the perverts and freaks that are currently in academia and permeating all the schools, as the pedophile perverts do. They do go there. I do believe that returning to correct, proper Catholicism is the most salutary and beneficial of things for human beings. So, do you like Francisco Franco? I don't know much about him, but I'll tell you what. I used to think Pinochet was an evil, despotic dictator, and I still think he was a pretty hardcore guy, but I've had to really rethink when I realized what communists are and what communists do and how they generally tend to make things go. Apparently, I believe Pinochet disappeared some 30,000. Is it 3,000 or 30,000? I can't remember. Maybe it was 30,000 dead overall and 3,000 disappeared ones that never got found again because they had like a one-way helicopter trip to the ocean. But 30,000 people, it sucks if you're one of them or if you're related to some of them. But how many millions would have been killed, dispossessed, sent into absolute abject poverty if the communists had taken over Chile? I mean, look at what happened in Venezuela. Would it have been easier to just have 30,000 dead and no communists there? Maybe so. Horse Mumbler says, I find it interesting how even the most ungodly will try to cry out for and call down judgment. Karma will get you, just you wait. Seems a common refrain these days from thwarted demons. Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, karma is. Mandy Jones says Alaska is epic beautiful. You see, I kind of know that. And I hate the cold. I hate the cold. But I can't, there's some part of me that wants to just be covered in furs with a nice big ass rifle out in the woods in Alaska in a little cabin. That would be great. Woolly Ram, silly question. Were you cold averse as a kid, teenager? Yes, I've always been cold averse, and I think I'll continue to be cold averse most of my life. Chris Covea says my dad hates him because he read a book where the soldiers raped a woman. Yeah, well, that's the propaganda. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure they did. I believe I mentioned in one of the videos that I saw a film about the Chilean dictatorship when I was doing a sailing course in Durban in South Africa for a week. I went by myself to see this film, and I had a really pretty woman there that got raped basically by these soldiers who basically said, if you want us to like not arrest you and shit, you're just gonna have to let us fuck you. And so she did. And then she tried to run away, and in the end she gets shot and killed. And she was really beautiful, and I was like, fuck, these people are evil. But I was a pretty young guy and didn't realize the effect of propaganda. And I was like, yeah, that. Plus, having lived in Africa, I'd come across those type of soldiers, and they exist in every army. And a lot of soldiers are like that. Well, I got a gun, I can do what I want. Who the fuck there's no laws? I can kill, rape, murder. Look what the Americans did in Afghanistan. Fucking gang raping a 14-year-old, shit like that. But you see, if I was a soldier and I was in a unit with people that did that, and I've mentioned this before, and I've had people tell me, you wouldn't do that because your own guys. No. If I'm a fucking unit, whatever it was, whether it was Vietnam, Korea, fucking Afghanistan, and I see some guy blowing away a kid or fucking trying to rape a little girl or something, I would slit his fucking throat myself. I remember there was a scene in a film once. There was like a group of like 6 guys, and like 5 of them decide to rape this little Vietnamese girl or whatever. And the one guy's like, no, I don't want to do it. And he just like walks away. I'm like, they're all busy trying to rape that girl. I got myself a fucking fully automatic rifle. I would just fuck it, blow them all away. I really would. I wouldn't give a flying fuck. And people say, oh no, but you can't because your own men, they're on your side. Nah, those people are not on my side, and they would be fucking dead. I'd go back to base and say, well, I'm the only survivor. I guess you got to give me some good guys, guys that don't get distracted by trying to rape little girls, because that's what got them. They were trying to rape a little girl. Out came all these gooks and blew them away. I just managed to get away with my life. The only reason I did is because I didn't have my dick in my pants, down around my ankles, dick in my hand, trying to rape a little girl. I didn't want any part of it, so I was a little bit further away and I survived. Yep, that's what happened. That would be my story. Fuck them. And, people say, but the thing is, people say, oh no, you wouldn't do that because, no, I fucking would. I know exactly who I am. And if you're a Catholic, the whole point, I mean, I was like this long before I was a Catholic. Being a Catholic wouldn't have changed that one iota. But more so if you're a Catholic, just because you're in war doesn't mean that anything goes. Don't get me wrong, all sorts of shit goes in war. All sorts of evil fucking stuff you'd never think of doing in normal life, you would do or can do or would do or whatever. But there's a line. There's still a line. Because again, if you're Catholic, the most important thing is not staying alive. The most important thing is saving your soul, which means having an honor, which means having a word, which means, if necessary, to give your life. So, Crypto Fashion has some epic Pinochet shirt. Look, guys, Crypto Fashion, by the way, if you can help them out, help them out. That guy is a really good guy, and he's having a hell of a difficult time, very difficult time. He's behind on all sorts of payments. He was very, very sick. He nearly died. So his business took a big hit, and he can't physically work at anything else at the moment because he's really just still trying to recover. And there's a huge amount of stress for lack of money and so on. So if you can throw money his way, go buy some Crypto Fashion shirts, David Perkins says, I think Franco misplaced 400k of his subjects. When you see what the communists were doing before the war, it was probably more than worth it. Okay, I don't know. I don't know enough about Francisco Franco. Todd, how are you, Todd? I know I haven't done that thing yet, mate. I'll get to it. It's just being crazy. Is Trump going to have to use the military to counter the election treason? I have no idea. I don't know how much of the military is on his side, if any. It looks like some of them are, because apparently those servers in Germany got confiscated by US military forces. So, Woolly Ram, can you tease the truth of events out of the news, or is it too controlled and unreal? I would say it's too controlled and unreal. Your only way of trying to tease the truth out of it is if you assume the exact opposite of everything they say, you're probably not far from the ballpark. Say start. Rapists, castrate or burn? What's the Catholic position? I suppose it depends on the rape, but when it comes to child rapes, yeah, burn them at the stake. You know, if you're talking, unfortunately, the word rape has somewhat lost its meaning thanks to the lefties. You know, if you're talking about a 20-year-old woman walking home and just being assaulted by some random total stranger who then forcibly rapes her, as far as I'm concerned, the death penalty is perfectly applicable there. If you're talking about a drunk college girl in her early 20s who gets pissed, you know, decides to have a random fuck with another guy who's probably just as pissed as she is, bangs him while maybe she has a boyfriend or two on the side, wakes up in the morning covered in cum and, you know, fucking doesn't even remember if she slept with one, two, or three guys, and then decides that, oh my God, she's been raped. Yeah, nah, that guy, I don't think should be put to death. I'm not saying he's necessarily a good guy. Now, I've been at parties. I'll tell you a story. I've been at a party with, well, I was with some girl that, well, we didn't speak a word of each other's languages. She was Turkish and didn't speak any English, and I certainly don't know a single fucking word of Turkish, but we communicated non-verbally nevertheless, and we went to this party together where she had a friend of hers that, you know, was Turkish but could also speak a bit of English, so she kind of translated for us. Now, this girl proceeded to get trashed, and there was a couple of English guys there that were like, you know, definitely helping her get drunk with the intention of getting in between her legs. And I saw this happening, and so did the girl I was with, and I was like trying to explain to her, say, look, your friend's gonna be in fucking trouble, you know, we better take her away from here. And she says, yeah, you know, we understood, communicated, whatever, in like hand gestures. And like we sort of picked up her friend, gave her a bit of coffee, tried to make her say, look, you know, it's time we go, let's all go away together, you know, like gently trying to like coax her away. And she became adamant that no, she wants to stay. And I'm like, no, I want to stay here and play with that, you know, like be whatever with that guy. And that guy that she pointed to was a fucking rapist. As far as I'm concerned, this guy was just the typical English, you know, can't get a girl into bed unless she's stone blotted out, fucking drunk. And that was like his modus operandi, like a lot of English guys do because they don't have any balls. But, you know, the girl was like, no, I want to stay, leave me alone. I'm going to stay here. To the point where I was like, you know what, fuck this. I mean, but I didn't say anything. I was just like, whatever, you know, fine. She's her friend, and I don't know what their relationship. After, you know, and the Turkish girl still tried to talk to her in her own language and everything because the other girl could speak English anyway. And after a while, she was like, she just looked at me and goes, no, we go. I'm like, what? Your friend? She's gonna get fucked by that guy. You know that. Maybe his friends too. You know. She goes, nah. I spoke to her. You know, like she communicated. She managed to make me understand. Look, I talked to her. That's what she wants. That's what she wants to be. It's not our fucking problem anymore. And so we left. Now, if the next day that girl wakes up with that guy in her bed and she decides she was raped, nah, sorry, she wasn't raped. She chose that. She was compos mentis enough that she wanted to be there, and, you know, maybe she had a bit of a hankering for dick. And then maybe at the light of day, when she's fully sober, she realizes, oh, that's kind of gross. But that's, you know, you made that choice. So, and the wise officer would not inquire too deeply. Okay, I don't know what that's referred to, Woolly Ram. Oh, Noventalian, what's the strangest thing that ever happened to you that you're willing to talk about? Ah, well, there's a lot of strange things that have happened to me that I'm willing to talk about. There's one that certainly comes to mind, but there's no way I'm going to talk about that one. I am busy putting it in a book for my daughter eventually, but yeah. Well, I've had plenty of strange things. I've had like flashing premonitions that saved my life a couple of times. That's in the Systema book. Most of the crazy shit that's happened to me that is unbelievable, I put in that Systema book. Um, I had an image of a snake about to bite me, and I ran off, and my brother confirmed that literally happened, and he was behind me. And then I had another image once of a guy coming up behind me to stab me, and I just instinctively turned around, ready to block and punch, and there was a guy running at me with his hand under his jacket, and we saw each other, and I knew it was him because that's I was turned, I didn't see him, I didn't, but I just had this picture. There's a guy coming up behind me to stab me, and I turn around, and there's the guy running at me, and I'm waiting for him to bring out his knife or whatever so I can plant him. And he just looked at me and realized, oh fuck, he's ready, and he just like veered off and ran off in another direction. I was like, hmm. But it was so instinctive, I didn't even have time to think, oh, what's happening here? Only afterwards I was like, huh, that was weird. And I'm not even a minute later, my brother comes running up, says, "You've been stabbed. Somebody told me that you've been stabbed. Did somebody stab you?" I'm like, "No. Who told you that, though? I want to know who told you that." And he was like, "Oh, fuck, I don't know. Somebody just told me. I just came running looking for you. I don't even know who told me." I was like, "Come on, you fucking idiot. I want to know who it was because that guy knew something. And I want to find out who that other guy was because I'd never seen him before in my life." So, that happened a few times. I had another little premonition on how I was going into a toilet at the cinema, and just before I walked in, I saw, oh, there's two guys fighting in there. And I walked in, and sure enough, there was two guys fighting. But that wasn't particularly dangerous or anything. It was just I've had dreams come true. I've had a dream that was sounded like a crazy, stupid story, and then like months later, it happened. And the only reason I know I remembered was because when I woke up, I told my girlfriend I had this silly dream. And then months later, pretty much the thing that I dreamed happened. And when I got home, I told my girlfriend. She was like, "Oh, but you remember you dreamt it?" I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, that's right, I did." So yeah, I've had a lot of strange things. Joran Hoburn says, "What is the Catholic position on death? Only burial, or is cremation also an option?" Sinner Start says no cremation. I don't think it matters. Um, I'm not sure where you get that from about cremation, but my grandfather was cremated, so no, I don't think that's a thing. Yeah, and Center Start says, "I don't know too much more. Make sure you ask a priest." And I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, we are sorry for your loss. It's one of those weeks. A lot of people passing away. But keep in mind, some people die in fires. It's not a Catholic position that such a person is, doomed or anything. So I don't think cremation is a thing. Horse Mumbler says, "Shirt idea. Portraits profiles of Pinochet and Che next to facing each other. The one says, 'Want to take a ride?'" It's pretty good. Well, what's done is done. I can only pray for her now regardless. I just hope she's not punished forever. No, she won't be, dude. Like I said, look, people have died in fires. They're not going to hell just because they died in a fire, man. So, don't worry about it. And Poster Child says, "With the news, corroboration, contrasts, and a certain amount of common sense are necessary." Yeah, but the problem is that where you've got intentional evil throughout the media, you've also got a certain level of criminal incompetence and ineptitude. And when you mix those two things together, it becomes really difficult to see the truth. Horse Mumbler continues his shirt idea of Pinochet and Che Guevara next to each other, facing each other. And one says, "Want to take a ride?" And the other one says, "Is it free?" That is a very cool idea. I really like that one. That's very good. I'm going to pass that one on to you. Todd Ojala says, "Why do fat women wear yoga pants?" I can only surmise that that is further proof that the devil not only exists, but is working at all hours of the day and night to make our life miserable. It's my considered opinion from the Catholic position. LS16, Heinz G says, "Kurgan, would you consider narrating your father's book with your added asides? You read a sample a while back with some asides for context of stories from your perspective, and I really enjoyed it. It's a brilliant book. Honest to God, get that book. It's funny as hell. It really is hilarious, and it's all true. That's the amazing thing as well." Josiah Little says, "Bring me on." I don't know what that means. And David Perkins says, "The news is like hearing the least interesting 1% of the truth from a lying pervert." That's an accurate description. But you know what? I am going to go and get my dad's book, and I'll open it at random and read a paragraph to see if it makes any sense. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Ask more questions. So, let's see. Where? Oh, there's a little. I think this may be where my wife got to. Okay, so here's a little story about some construction. I just genuinely opened it at random. So, okay, I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Okay, so anyway, here's my dad's book. Again, random chapter. I don't know what the. Okay, he's Pule. Yeah, my dad's got very short titles. I really like his writing, actually. Perhaps I should go. Okay, I might. We'll see how far we get. You guys stop me if you get bored. So this chapter is titled Pule. My first work in Botswana was the building of the Anglican Cathedral. I had a very good team, including two Caucasian bricklayers from South Africa to train our Botswana bricklayers. The cathedral was the first building to be constructed with face brick in Botswana, and we had no bricklayers that could lay face bricks. The two men, Jack and Andy, settled well into our community. Too well, in fact. After less than 2 months, they both had Botswana girlfriends living with them, despite the fact that they both had families in South Africa. So much for apartheid. See what I mean? The man's just funny. When the cathedral was completed, Andy went back to South Africa and Jack stayed another 2 years, until one day his wife came up to Botswana with an offer he could not refuse, and he also left. Our team of bricklayers learned quickly, and at the end our men were laying more bricks than their teachers. We had a carpenter, Pule, a good carpenter and very well respected by all workers. He was older than most of them and had a no-nonsense attitude about work and people. He also had a particular gift that I never found in anybody else. In Botswana, we always pray for rain, and we all try to predict when rain will come, but nobody gets it right. You may get it right once in a while, but even now, with the weather forecast, we do not really know when and where it will rain. Some small farms may get drenched in the northern areas while the southern areas stay absolutely dry. Pule never failed to get it right. I remember asking Godwin, our storekeeper, when the rain would come. He said, "Ask Pule, he's the only one who knows." The first time I asked him, he said rain may come as early as August and sometimes as late as December. That year he thought we would have rain soon, within the next week. It was the end of August. The following week the sky was black with clouds and it started thundering and lightning. Pule was working on some shuttering. I called out to him and said, "You are right. Today we shall have a lot of rain." He looked up into the black sky and said, "Not today, tomorrow night." The wind blew the clouds away and we had no rain until the next night. How did he know? One day I had just finished leveling the concrete slab of the entrance. I was still on the slab about 3 meters off the ground when Armando came to inspect the site. The first thing he did was walk under the slab to fiddle with the props, unintentionally messing up my levels. My short temper, it was a bad day or probably a full moon. I shouted, "Who the fuck is under there?" No answer. Armando was his boss. I had not seen Armando coming, so I did not know it was the boss. Nobody had the courage or even the time to tell me as I jumped off the slab. I had very long hair, so on my way down it formed a bushy crown around my head, like a lion's mane. When I landed, I had a heated argument in Italian with Armando, something unique apparently, as all other employees were quite scared of Armando. I was never scared of being fired, but I do regret having such a short fuse. I did not know then, but when Pule saw me flying down from the slab with my hair waving in the air, he said in Setswana, let me try and pronounce this properly. "Monna yo otswanse, ebe ene ele tao, mobotseleng, bobongwe." That man must have been a lion in another life. A simple statement, but it stuck. Among them, never in my presence, the workers nicknamed me Tao, lion. My dad had like long hippie hair, like which he had from when he was doing karate as well. He was kind of a wild fucker, but he was never a hippie. For a Westerner, the lion is king of the beasts, a symbol of strength and nobility. Lions in Botswana at that time were considered pests. They would kill cattle, donkeys, and when old, even the occasional human. So to be named after such a beast meant to be named after a creature that should be avoided. I think Pula had also observed my short temper prior to the incident with Armando. Just coincidentally, you know. I mean, if you meet my dad and you know him for like anything longer than 30 minutes, you'll probably figure out he's got a short temper. I found out about my nickname only several years later, when after a heated argument in the store with Norman, the storekeeper in my company, I returned to my office. While sitting on my desk, I could hear Norman speaking in a fast, agitated Setswana with Isaac, the site foreman, outside in the yard, and the word Tao came up again and again. I exited the office and asked, "Who is Tao?" Norman, still upset about my previous outburst, blurted out, "You! You are like a lion! You do not behave! You shout! And you scare people!" Norman did speak very fast. Norman was never scared to talk back to me. That's true. Norman was straight as an arrow. I love that guy, actually. He was a very cool guy. That, I think, is why I like him so much. It's true. You know, like, both my dad and I are like, we might fucking eat your head or whatever if you don't piss us off. But, like, don't be a pussy. You know, fucking, if you think that we're assholes or we're wrong, just fucking say it, you know? So that is what you call me, Tao, the bad beast. He said, "Not only me, everybody does." And the secret died. I opened another company, a security company, and the nickname was soon known by all the new employees as well, even at the branch in Lobatse, 75 kilometers away. Pule's judgment of character was never questioned. He was used to giving nicknames to people, and the nickname stuck to them for a lifetime. It's true, that's how things work both in Africa and in the Red Indians. In Africa, everybody has a nickname. The harmless ones are told openly, and the person to whom the nickname is given will be addressed directly with it. But if the nickname emphasizes the bad side of the person, it may remain a secret for years, perhaps forever. It'll come as no surprise to you that my dad's workers nicknamed me Little Lion, because I was, still a teenager then. I'll just finish this chapter. One day, Pula did not come to work, which was very unusual. The next day, he was also absent. I inquired with Godwin, and he was vague and concerned at the same time. Pula had an accident. It is serious, and he is in the hospital. A car accident? No, an accident on some private work. No, come on, Godwin. What happened to him? I'm not sure. Something to do with his wife. Why do you not go to the hospital and ask him yourself? Marina Hospital is just across the road. So I went across the road to Marina Hospital and found Pula in a bed among several other patients. He was grey and did not look well at all. I asked him, what happened? She cut me, was the short answer. Who cut you? My wife. Silence. Why? I do not know. How is it possible you do not know? Did you not ask? How could I have asked? I was busy dying. Where did she cut you? The mad woman cut my tool. 13 stitches. Geez, Pula, 13 stitches along your tool. How did she manage that? Did she get you standing, parading your tool in front of another lady? No, not along it. Sideways. I was inside her. I was speechless. 13 stitches sideways. That is a very big tool indeed. I told him to never leave himself in the open, not even in the bush. He may frighten female donkeys to death and give the males a heart attack provoked by jealousy. He did not appreciate the humor. He remarked that he was very worried about his tool's recovery. Never mind the marriage. I thought Pula recovered fully, Oh, never mind the marriage, I thought. Pula recovered fully, kept predicting the weather, and giving out nicknames with his usual accuracy. And that's it. And then his next chapter is about another guy called Piri. There you go. And that was just a short little chapter about one of the guys he worked with. All right. So apparently that Lord Montbank is that you, I don't know. LS16 says, my illiterate German half is delighted. David Perkins says, I want the story on that office chair. Looks very arch lector Grand Inquisitor. Actually, the story of this chair is quite funny. So I've got a little office for myself, and my wife's got a little office for herself, which ended up becoming the nursery for the boy. Then briefly the boy stayed in another room with me, and now he's gone back there because I need to get some sleep to get to work and stuff. But this chair was actually in her office, and she ordered this chair, and it worked really well and whatever. And I was using just a normal one of the chairs we have for the table. But then when that whole COVID crap happened, I was basically working from home for like 3 or 4 months, and that hard chair was doing my tailbone in. So I said, look, can I just borrow it? You don't really use it. You're never in your study. Can I just take that? So essentially, this is my wife's chair that I kind of stole. And it's been here ever since. Offered to get her one, but another one, but she hasn't really needed it. So, oh, the title of the book is Life and Death in Africa. There you go. That's the book. It's got the same name as me, which you can just about there. Probably you can see it better here. So it's Giuseppe Filotto. There you go. He's got a P in the middle. So his middle name is Piero. Life and Death in Africa. That's the name of the book. There's the cover. And by the way, these are pictures that he took himself. These are not like stock photos. That elephant was like probably a few meters away from him when he took that picture. So was the lion, by the way. And when he took the picture of that lion, he didn't even have a rifle with him because he just went to take pictures. And he was literally like 20 meters away from a fucking lion with no gun. My dad is a very crazy man. And this dude here, I think is dead now. This was like the tracker that he used. This guy learned to speak English by having an English Setswana dictionary. He was a man that was obviously very intelligent despite living out in the middle of fucking nowhere. near the Okavango Delta. And whenever my dad went hunting up there, he only went with this guy. So good, Novante Lions said it. The name of the book is Life and Death in Africa by Giuseppe Piero Filotto. That's right. AP says, I develop applications. I want to develop something with some real purpose. Anyone have any ideas? Plenty of it. But they're going to cost you a percentage. Because that's how we work out here in the mafia. Chris Govea says, I wish I lived in the time of the Reconquista. Maybe I could have been someone like El Cid. Don't worry, it's coming back. Title 12 on ecclesiastical burial. Canon 1203.1. The bodies of the faithful departed shall be buried, their cremation being reprobated. Don't know about exceptional cases, though. Not a canon lawyer. I'm going to go get my canon law book and check that out. Just give me a second. Again, ask some other questions. All right, let's see. 1204. Indeed, the bodies of the faithful departed shall be buried, their cremation being reprobated. If anyone by any manner orders that his body be cremated, it is illicit to execute that desire, and if this was added to any contract or testament or any other act, it is considered as not being added. Okay, didn't know that. Ecclesiastical burial consists in the transfer of the corpse to a church, the funeral services that are celebrated over insane, and its disposition in a place legitimately deputed for laying down the faithful departed. Okay, I don't know. This is on ecclesiastical burial, though. So that is on the burial of priests. So just hold on. There's another little note there. 9. John O'Reilly, Ecclesiastical Sepulture in the New Code of Canon Law Study, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so this applies to clerics. I doubt your grandmother was none, so no problems there then. It's probably frowned upon, but again, I would consider that as being a worldly rule, not a divine rule. Can't seem to get good grades. Do you think it has something to do with IQ? When I was 9, I was at the top of my class, but now I'm lucky to get 70%. Don't worry about it, dude. Just do your best, do whatever you need to pass. It's school, it's not real life. It might be important depending on if you want to be a fucking brain surgeon, then, better study your ass a bit more off. But also, I think you're in Canada, so who the fuck knows? They probably want some nose-picking skills and some blue hair and some shit to give you 75%. I don't think burning is by accident is the same as cremation. Yeah, so again, like I said, it's that applies to priests. It's on the burial of ecclesiastics, not laymen. Woolly Ram asks one of the most important questions that any man can ask. What role-playing game systems did you play with most? We played with a lot, but the ones I truly played probably the most was Dungeons and Dragons. Now we started out with advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but really we went back to original Dungeons and Dragons, which is the best one. And I mean the full original Dungeons and Dragons. And if you want to play proper Dungeons and Dragons, here you go. In fact, you know what? I'm going to take out a couple of... There we go. gonna show you my full nerd side. So, this is all you need to play proper Dungeons and Dragons. Now, they're out of print, so you've got to get an old one. It's called the Rules Cyclopedia. It's got all the rules of real Dungeons and Dragons in one book. It's brilliant. It's perfect. This is all you need to play proper Dungeons and Dragons. I did also enjoy this, Star Wars, the role-playing game, which is pretty good. There's some other books that go with it for the spaceships and stuff. And it's a good game, but I just didn't really have the people or the time to play with. Now this I've never played, but I've read the rules, and I think this could be possibly the funniest role-playing game to actually play. If you've read the Atomic Robo comic books, it's hilarious. Unfortunately, the writers are complete social justice warrior gammas or whatever, but the comic book is very funny, and I think the role-playing game uses a system called Fate, which means that the other players can interrupt you in a way that is hilarious. So I think that this would probably be a very, very funny game to play, but I've never had the chance. I don't have the people, I don't have the time right now. Maybe when I'm retired, I'll play with my kids. The other game that I played a lot of and really enjoyed is Traveller, which, hold on. Here you go, the little black books. Again, the little black books are kind of the coolest, but I made my own house rules for this, which give you a bit more skills, and the spaceship combat rules in here kind of suck, and they're not very realistic. So I've designed my own space combat system, which does work and is pretty fucking brilliant, if I do say so myself. But those are all house rules, which, you know, if you're really interested, drop me an email, I'll send you a copy. And oh, another game that I really enjoyed, that I don't have the book, but I've been thinking about for a month that I'm gonna rebuy, is Car Wars. And there's also Car Wars like Cyclopedia, you know, the same sort of book like this, where it's got all the Car Wars rules and pretty much all the Car Wars equipment and stuff. Because some of the equipment for Car Wars came in what they called Uncle Albert's monthly or quarterly little booklet, and there was also what they called HGV or something like that, which was like stories about Car Wars along with some rules and some added rules for like superhero Car Wars characters. Then they had the chassis and crossbow version, which was kind of like a Mad Max world. And the reason I like Car Wars is because your characters only had like 3 hit points. And if you had the special skills, you'd have like 6 hit points. And then if you put armor on, you can have another 3 hit points, or maybe another 6 hit points if you've got the special super armor. But it's like a handgun would do like 2 points of damage. So it's like deadly. It really is deadly. And really your car was the main thing. But then we role played in such a way that your characters became really very cool. And I had this character which I modeled on the comic book character called Jonah Hex. Because in Jonah Hex, the real Jonah Hex goes through this little time warp and he ends up in the future. So I made a character, called him Jonah Hex, and it was like, this was Jonah Hex in the future. And he survived, I mean, like that fucking dungeon master we had, or referee, whatever you call it, he was just a sadistic fuck who tried to kill your characters. And he did not manage to kill my Jonah Hex character, even though he put him in situations where literally, I remember at one point it was like, you had to roll like a dice and I had to get a 6, or otherwise the whole car and everything would blow up. Oh, that was it. The car was rolling and was going to blow up. And I thought, no, fuck, I knew that's what he was going to go for. So I thought, no, my guy jumps out of the car while it's rolling. And he goes, well, it's difficult. You've got your seatbelt. I was like, nah, it's a quick release belt. That's what it's described as. I'm just going to go pop and jump out the fucking window. And you're like, well, you've got to roll a 6, otherwise you can't do it. And I rolled a 6, jumped out of the car, took all my damage because it was like rolling at 50 miles an hour, whatever, survived like 1 hit point left. And the next round, the car just exploded. So he tried everything to kill this character and just couldn't do it. Because you just can't kill Jonah Hex. So there you go. Oh, Michael Pecker says he's glad to catch the stream. There's 32 of you, 37, and we have the thumb down. I was a DM back in high school and the army, mostly D&D 2nd edition and 3.0e. I've never played anything past 2nd edition, and I didn't really play 2nd edition either. I think 2nd edition was probably actually quite good. I think the closest to 2nd edition that I played Baldur's Gate, the computer game, which I think was based on 2nd edition. But yeah, 2nd edition could have been pretty good, but it started to become a bit too, like, you needed to have like an accounting book just to keep track of your characters, which is becoming, it's a bit like RuneQuest. RuneQuest was like so detailed. It had like percentages for everything. Oh, and another one that we really played quite well and really enjoyed was Top Secret, which is supposed to be sort of like a 007 thing, but we modified it a little bit, added some science fiction elements to it, and yeah, we made Top Secret be a really pretty interesting game, actually. It's also quite deadly, which I kind of like really in my role-playing games. What else? Oh, we played Paranoia very few times, which again is hilarious, but you really need a group of people that are sort of dedicated and good role players to have a good game of Paranoia. Oh, another one that we played quite a bit that was quite fun when my brother was the DM, because my brother's got a very good imagination and he really thinks a lot out of the box, was Gamma World. And there's various iterations of Gamma World. So we played that a little bit, and also we played, I think it was DC Heroes, I think, or Marvel, I can't remember, or one. Actually, no, sorry, we played Marvel superheroes quite a little bit. Although I think the mechanisms of DC Heroes was actually better. Okay. May we arm the Legion with cheap bagpipes, or would this be considered excessively cruel? I don't know. I think it's more than cruel, it's heresy. That's what I would say. Flemish Bear says, could you explain the essence of Systema? No, dude, that's why I wrote a book. It's 400 pages plus. Buy the book, read the book, watch the videos. There's like 40 videos that go with it. And even if I did explain the essence to it, you wouldn't understand it because you don't have the background. You don't have you don't even know what I'd be talking about. I mean, I can tell you that in essence, Systema uses the parasympathetic nervous system instead of the sympathetic nervous system, mostly to fight instead of rest and digest. Does that explain it to you? No. Unless you're really pretty clued up on neurology, it won't mean jack shit to you. So you can't put everything on a postcard, dude. That's why I wrote a book on Mars, that's why I wrote a book on martial arts, and that's why I wrote a couple of books now on the Catholic Church. These are things that you can't put on the back of a postcard. You know what you can put on the back of a postcard? Pretty much the entire knowledge throughout human history of economics. Because pretty much everything that's been written about economics is a pile of horseshit. So there you go. But anything actually real that takes a while to learn, no, you can't summarize in a sentence. Or it's meaningless if you do, because people won't understand what you're saying anyway. But yeah, I would love nothing better to have enough time on my hands to play a good game of one of these role-playing games. Actually, given the mood of the day, probably Car Wars. Maybe a little bit of that chassis and crossbow part of Car Wars. You know, we're going into the Mad Max future. Zeno starts says, we can get some blown out speakers and mount them on top of a car, playing them into a microphone, Mad Max style. Indeed. And Flemish Bear says, ha, thanks, all right, so good. I'm glad you received that in the right way. You know, I used to get a lot of emails when I was teaching, and a lot of people calling me. I get random people calling me up saying, hi, you're the guy that teaches Systema. Yeah. Well, can I come to your class? Yeah. Oh, okay then. I'll see you at your class. Okay then. Why the fuck did you need to call me? Just show up. It's not like the class wasn't at. You've got the advert, you've got my number, you've got where the class is. Just turn up. It's like I get a lot of people tell me they could have, and it took me a while to figure this out. Can I come to watch your class? I'm like, well, why are you calling me to ask that? Just I don't care. Okay, come and watch, but you're not gonna learn shit by watching. You might as well just do it. Oh, but yeah, I would think I would just like to see first. I said, whatever, dude. Do whatever you want. It took me a long time to figure out people are scared. They were scared to like join the class, and it took me ages to figure that out because I was like, oh, fuck, if I wanted to learn some martial art or whatever, I'd just go in and say, okay, can I join? Can I just jump in? And I'll soon figure out whether I'm going to get my ass kicked or not. That's the whole point. It's martial art class, not ballet, right? But yeah. Bully Ram says, I only got to be a player near age 30. I was a perpetual DM. Prepping dungeons and world building is a lot of fun. It is, but I gotta admit, I probably like playing more than DMing. If you got a good DM. But yeah, I've enjoyed DMing as well. I've DM'd a few games, and people seem to have liked them too. And Les says, much more economical. We could then afford earplugs, so it wouldn't be a suicide mission. Indeed. Well, okay, guys. Actually, I did. Oh, by the way, I did try to play an online game of Traveler using Discord and some Roll20 type thing, but it was very convoluted, and the people that I was playing with were like fucking. Oh, they were just like, I don't know, like rules lawyer. The DM was actually good. He was a good guy, the DM, but the other players were just like, I mean, the whole mission was like you had to go to this space station around the gas giant that was busy sinking into the gas giant, and apparently everybody on the station got sick, and some of them were in these like medbot things, and they were gonna die if we like didn't get them out of there. And I was like, well, fuck, let's just rip the medbot thing out, and drag it onto the ship. We're like, oh no, well, what if you infect the ship? And I'm like, well, they're inside the medbot, so it's pretty closed circuit, and we're in our suits. We could go back, at least pull them out, and then we could sit in quarantine inside the ship or whatever. Well, no, you could infect. And I was like, well, fuck it, let's just pull out the whole medbot thing. It's like, oh no, the medbot thing was too big to go through the doors or whatever. I'm like, well, fuck it, what if I just open the medbot, carry the bodies to the ship, we put them all just in one of the airlocks. We've got more than one airlock. At least we get them out of here. Oh no, but they will die. What if they die? I'm like, dude, they're gonna die anyway. They're gonna like fall into the gas giant and get like imploded. So what the hell? If I was one of them, I'd want somebody to take the chance to shove me in an airlock. And I was like, no, but that's a crime. That's murder. Because then you made it. I was like, who gives a shit? There's no one here, dude. Oh, but the camera's on the ship. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm like saving a life. Fuck you. Just open the thing and like start to drag one of these guys out, and he like dies on the way to the airlock. But he was one of the ones that was like nearly completely dead. So I was like, oh, okay, this guy didn't make it. Well, maybe the next guy will. He doesn't look too bad. They're like, you just killed one. You're gonna kill another one. I'm like, so what? They were like such fucking wusses trying to like tell me about, but the law. I'm like, the law in space when people are gonna get crushed by whatever, I'll face the charges. I mean, fuck it, that's what I do in real life anyway. What? And it's a role-playing game. Why wouldn't I do it 3 times as much there? It was just sad. So eventually I left. I was like, nah, these people are too fucking stupid. And plus, because of their legalism, they were taking hours to just do anything. It's like, oh, who goes up in the lift? And I was like, okay, I just go up in the lift. Oh no, but we didn't discuss. I'm like, I don't care. These guys are talking about it. I'm just getting in the lift and go up the lift and see the next level. Fuck it. Wally Ram says, have you found a good summary of economics? Something like Spooner's summary of politics? No. And no, and I don't think the whole. I mean, when I was 4 years old, I figured out, my God, this doesn't make any sense. Money, like fiat money, gold. I was 4 years old, and I thought, this shit doesn't make any sense. This system seems completely fucked to me. But I'm just a little kid that's 4 years old. I probably have got it all wrong. And 40 years later, I realized, nope, I wasn't wrong. I was right at age 4. It's all bullshit, the whole money thing. I mean, it affects your life in dramatic ways, but the whole concept of money as we have it on this planet is absolute fucking bullshit. It's useful and you need it, especially if you're gonna get sick or you need some urgent shit. Better have money, so make some of it. But it's a fucking game. And it's a rigged game, by the way. So I've managed to make enough money to do pretty much what I want to do and be relatively safe without having to compromise myself. But yeah, I suppose that's the aim of the game, I suppose. And Wooly Ram says that playing RPG games online is like drinking the alcoholed wine. Indeed. Indeed. In fact, it's worse because vin brûlé, which is when you heat up the wine and then you burn some of the alcohol out, is actually quite pleasant. But yeah, role-playing online, no. Xenostart says, when the normies get their Neuralink brain chips, we can just hack their internal Spotify and play our cacophony direct into their brain. There's an evil man that I definitely want on my side. I'm glad he's on the side of the hardcore Catholics. And LS16 says, brilliant, we can give them a good long glimpse of hell. Perhaps they'll repent before their heads explode. Much more efficient than fire, if less satisfying. Indeed. Todo Jala says, money begetting money is not natural, and compound interest is insane. Well, interest as a whole is, of course, a Jewish invention, so take from that what you will. People that say that, what do you call it? That usury is not really a crime. Yeah, I think usury is indeed a crime. Well, okay, thanks for the trip down memory lane with the role-playing games. I had some good times. Yeah, it would be cool to play again with my brother and a few friends or something. That would be... it takes a while for role-playing game styles to... You need to play with a few people a few times, because I've had games where, like, people we didn't know wanted to play, so they, like, came along, and it's like... It wasn't good. Generally wasn't good. They really didn't have a clue. They didn't have the kind of... I don't know, maybe... My brother and I have always had good imagination, so we'd figure ways around. I mean, I'll tell you, this was one of the dungeons that we played in Dungeons and Dragons was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was this thing where you had this magic mirror that basically you could walk through the mirror and you'd appear in this like little pocket universe. And the whole plot was like, it was kind of set up, it was like a module, so it was like set up so that you would, and we used the characters from the module, so we didn't have our own characters. We picked the characters from the module, we selected. We each played 2. Like, I had like a magic user and a cleric, I think. And my brother had an elf, which was also like a magic user in Dungeons and Dragons, and a fighter or something like that. Anyway, and so the whole point was like, you as a team all jump through this giant mirror and you all appear in this other side of the realm. And the whole module was set up to make you do that. And when you did that, on the other side of the realm, you would find yourself that you couldn't go back through the mirror, and you would find like a half circle, a double half circle of soldiers pointing crossbows at you. So there would be like 2 semicircles of soldiers all pointing crossbows at you, like directly in front of you. Now, the whole point of the module was that this was such an overwhelming force that your characters would just give up, and then they would get like imprisoned into the main castle of this realm, and then they'd have to escape, and there was a whole sort of path that you were supposed to follow. Now, of course, my brother and I were not used to giving up. So we appeared in this realm, and immediately my cleric stood in front of my mage, so that the mage could cast a spell. Now, the spells and everything was like predetermined. We didn't get to choose any of them. These were like made-up characters from the module. And the dungeon master really tried to like make sure that like, no, can they actually do this? No, fuck it, I'm gonna find a way. But he couldn't. The rules were the rules. We were pretty good about respecting the rules, and so was he. So the magic user cast this wall of fire, which was one of the spells he had, and he cast it directly on the first half of the semicircle. Now, each one of these guys was just a normal soldier with a couple of like dice of hit points, and the wall of fire did like, I don't know, 6 or 7 dice of damage. So they all like fried to a crisp instantly. and the dungeon master also went to read the rules about like, well, how much damage and how quick is it and how long does it take to cast the spell and could they fire the arrows? So it turned out that the magic user, because he was behind the cleric, could cast the spell before any of the guys that, like a couple of them rolled like, what do you call it, initiative rolls and intuition rolls, and figured out what was happening, and they shot a couple of arrows, but a couple of bolts, but it was only like a few of them, and they didn't hit, or the cleric armor blocked them or whatever. So the wall of fire on the first half of the semicircle fried all those soldiers to crisp. All the guys behind immediately shot all their bolts, but I was like, no. That wall of fire does damage to anything that crosses it. So I want to know how much hit points or whatever does a bolt have. Turns out the bolts all turned to ash as soon as they went through the wall of fire. Now my brother, who had the elf, had one of his spells was metamorphosis. So he metamorphosized into a dragon, which, although he wasn't a real dragon, but he metamorphosed into one that looked like a dragon, which causes fear. So that affected most of the other guys, which, by the way, when we appeared, it was on this plateau, like a huge table that was like, there was a 20-foot drop or something. So some of the soldiers that got panicked ran off and fell off the edge, as did my cleric. My own cleric was affected by the fear factor of this dragon, because, he couldn't communicate about what was happening. He suddenly sees the dragon, he panicked, ran off the side of the table, but he survived. Anyway, long story short, our small team of like 5 or 6 players wiped out like 40 or 50 soldiers or whatever it was. Just wiped them all out, just fucking dead. Within about 4 rounds, they were all gone. At which point, I remember the dungeon master was like, fuck it. He just threw the module up in the air and was like, fuck it. I don't know what to do now. You guys just defeated the module. It's like, you're supposed to get captured and go to jail and do all this other shit. Now you've just got the run of the place. So, and that happened quite a few times. Like, they tried to, whenever DMs tried to wipe us out, it just wouldn't go the way they thought. Because, and this happened in more than once. I mean, other, like, again, standard module where we're just playing with the characters. One of them was, it was a very famous module with the Drow, Vault of the Drow, I think it was called. And I got the paladin simply because his name was Philotomy Jurament. So because of my surname, the other guys were like, Philotomy, that's you! So I had the paladin. My brother took the magic user, and one of, the Drow are also magic users. One of the Drow characters cast like, I think it's called a mirror image, where they have like multiple like mirror images of them, so you don't know which one is real, but like you've got a like 25% chance of hitting the real one. Otherwise you're just hitting one of these images that is not real, but they keep shifting, so you don't know which one it is. And we're like, oh fuck, we're not going to be able to hit this magic using Drow. My brother was like, yeah, I just cast web, which is like a 2nd level spell. Just cast web over the whole fucking bunch of them. Like, that's it, the Drow was now webbed. So we're like kind of clever in how we use what we got. And again, that was unexpected in the module. Didn't expect the guy who designed the module didn't think of that. So that was quite fun. Okay, Todd says good night. Good night, Todd. Then compound debt begetting values downright Chetonic. Yes, it is. Is Lord Mountbank our beloved downvoter? No, no, he's not. I believe our. The only reason I don't tell you who the beloved downvoter is because he would get an orgasmic little lift from the fact that I mentioned his name. Some of you have figured out who it was, who he is. He's a guy who got banned from Social Galactic for lying, spamming, and continuing to lie. And then he was really upset about it. And he's got about 30 followers on YouTube or something. But don't say his name if you know who he is. It's just, I like teasing him. Modules that involve being captured are lazy design and counter to the freeform nature of pen and paper RPGs. Yeah, yes and no. I found that most modules that we created ourselves, they had a generic sort of path that you kind of want your players to follow, but they were freeform. But yeah, I generally agree with you, because if the players are any good, any kind of design that implies your players are going to definitely get captured is a bit silly, honestly. If your players are any good, they will probably throw a spanner in those ideas. The fun of RPGs from a DM's perspective is how everything devolves due to your players. Yeah, if you got good players and you got a good DM and you kind of follow the spirit of the rules, it's really hilarious. It can be really, really funny. I mean, I've had some of the funnest times I had was like playing role-playing games. It was good fun, and plus you know, there's a lot of things people don't know about role-playing games, apart from the fact that it's a socializing thing, because it increases your mathematical knowledge, it increases your imagination. It's good for you. It's actually good for you. I mean, in physics class, by the time we got to do like, you know, physics, we were like, fuck it, I could sleep in physics class and it didn't matter shit, because I had learned how to do vectors and all sorts of calculations just to figure out the reality of my traveler spaceship getting sucked into a gravity well and not being able to, like, you know, I had to use the slingshot thing to like use the gravity of planets to get the spaceship to go a bit faster, you know. So we did all that shit. So yeah. Polymorph selves have always been absurdly and hilariously powerful if you've got a good imagination, because I've seen players with, you know, polymorph self, they were like, yeah, well, I'll just transmute myself into a hot woman, you know, because they, yeah, fuck, who cares, you know. It's yeah. Level 2 spells are wizard's tool belt. It's where most problem solving spells are, indeed. And then level 3 you start to get powerful. Okay, I have no idea what any of this is about, but I demand a Wooly Kurgan RPG stream. I think we should grant that. We will grant that. However, we need rules. Wooly Ram, we need rules. Because we're both verbose in a diaretic fashion. So we're going to have rules. We will do a stream on role-playing games. I don't know if we should pick one role-playing game. Oh, I've got so many stories on Dungeons & Dragons, some hilarious stories. Yes, I think we should do a stream on Dungeons & Dragons, where all we will do in the stream is we will tell each other stories of either our DMing or our playing. That's what we will do, Woolly Ram. And I have no... Oh, it's already 1:30 on a Sunday. You know what, Woolly Ram, how about... Well, later tonight, by my reckoning. So I got to go to work on Monday, but let's say maybe 9 p.m. Sunday. I don't know if it's Sunday where you are yet, but maybe 9 p.m. on Sunday, which is later today for me. We could do the RPG stream on Dungeons & Dragons only, and we'll do that. What do you think about that? Let me know here, Wooly, before I say goodnight, because we've been going 2 hours already. Immortals D&D game. Never got past character creation. Oh, yeah. In Dungeons and Dragons, you do get to immortal level. I've never actually played immortal level. Not really interested in it because it's sort of like, by that time you're literally kind of immortal, so it becomes a bit of a storytelling without much role-playing game. So I think, generally the highest characters we played were probably like 7th, 8th, 10th level, something like that. And then you can do some really. We always geared our adventures to the level of the character. So if you've got like a 3rd level adventures, you might get a dragon or whatever, but it's done in a way that it's not outright instant death for your players. I had like hordes of orcs charge like a castle where like the main players are like 3rd, 4th level, but they were like commanding a bunch of like 1st level troops, and it worked quite well, even though they had like giants against them and shit. So we geared it to, so like, even if it was initially appeared very unfair, it was, whenever I dungeon mastered the game, it was like pretty fair. But we had this DM who just had no fucking I mean, I'll save this for the stream with Woolly Ram. I only have Friday nights off. Oh, okay. Well, Woolly Ram can't do tomorrow night, but okay, we'll plan it for Friday night then. But I hope I'll be able to hold myself from telling the role-play game stories until Friday. But let's schedule it for Friday, about 9 p.m. my time. Mandy John, I want to become better at role-playing. I want to learn how to play better. Can I play? I have an amazing imagination for role-playing. I can do Friday or Saturday since Kurgan has a different time zone. Okay. Yeah, why not, Mandy? Now, I have to admit, I've had my cognac and whatever, so female role-playing game, it's usually live action stuff in the bedroom. I did have my first, now ex-wife, did role-play with us once, and she was actually kind of funny and pretty good, especially considering she spoke almost no English. But yeah, it was quite hilarious. But otherwise, generally speaking, I don't know, girls playing role-playing games, just they never. I don't know. There wasn't. First of all, there wasn't many of them when I was around. Anyway, when I was a teenager, there wasn't a lot of female role players, and when they were female role players, never mind the guys. You sort of expect the nerds to be a bit distracted by pretty girl playing Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, but the girls themselves were like complete little sluts that were like more interested in the dick around the table than the actual game. We're sort of like, okay, we know you like to flash your tits, but really we're kind of like trying to kill orcs here, so focus. It was it was really quite weird. So don't let anybody tell you that playing role-playing games means you don't get pussy. It's not true. What is my time zone? Greenwich Mean Time, especially considering I live in Greenwich, or also as God Mean Time. Proper, correct time zone, where it was invented, Greenwich. And what are you, Mandy? And Mandy, do you actually play role-playing games? And I mean, actual role-playing games where you're not just dressing up like a cheerleader and whatever. How would I play with people who won't? Oh, I don't know. Use your feminine charms. I'm kind of intrigued. Mandy sounds like she might actually be a real role player. So, Mandy, have you played Dungeons and Dragons, Traveler? Tell us. I'm now curious. A female role player. Let's see. Or do you just play computer games? Like I said, I have a good imagination. Give me a chance. I am engaged anyways. I have played role-playing games in the past. D&D. Original D&D? Rules Cyclopedia D&D? Or some other form? Like D&D 5th edition or some crap. I am FL time zone. I'm guessing that's Florida, which is probably what, 5 or 6 hours behind us. You get to use up our used up sunlight. So let's see, my 9 p.m. on a Friday or a Saturday would be roughly, I think, your 4 p.m. Oh wait, one of the kids is just woken up, so I think the wife's getting to them. Original. Wow. Mandy Joan played originals D&D. Okay. That's interesting. Flat Earth Travolta. What's up, friends? Dude, a name like that, you're about to get banned. And Woolly Ram says 4th and 5th edition are heretical. Quite, indeed. I'm enjoying some Rakia Brando wine. Rakia Brandy wine. Oh, is that the Japanese stuff? I'm not sure. Huh. Well, Mandy, have you got Skype? I know Woolly does. But I am pretty tired. I don't think we're gonna do much more today. It's 2 hours in. I'm starting to do like those like monologues, but I do like talking to you guys. There's still 30 of you here, you crazy zealots. It's good to know that I have fanatics on my stream, though. I'm gonna finish my cognac. This stuff evaporates very quickly. Look at that. Look at that. That was a brand new bottle a few days ago. Well, I think, I don't know if it's possible. It must be possible. Turn on interviews in the switch above. Mandy says rakia is a traditional Slavic drink from my fiancé homeland of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Oh. Oh, is rakia that stuff that I think it's some guy in England many years ago made me taste a capful of something that was called grandmother's milk, if I don't, no, not mother-in-law's milk, something like that. It was the foulest alcoholic beverage I have ever had the unpleasantness of tasting. My original bottle evaporated. That's I told my wife, I said, look, there's something really wrong. I mean, she got a dehumidifier or something. I think that must be it. That must be it. And this was right up there a few days ago. It's just it's the alcohol content makes it evaporate real quick. So is rakia that disgusting, bitter, sour, fucking, oh. Yeah, but the worst thing I tasted was this mother-in-law's milk. I think that's what it was called. It was in a black bottle, which I think might have had a skull on it. It was truly disgusting. But if I remember, is rakia, if I remember right, if I'm not confusing with something else, rakia is pretty gross as well. Ah, no, rakia is made from sweet plums and honey too. It's amazingly delicious. Then it must be quite similar to the Japanese plum wine, which I really do like. I don't know what it's called, the Japanese one, but I think they just call it plum wine. And it is sweet. And yeah, I do like sweet wine. What's the Kagor is the Russian wine that I quite enjoy, which is kind of like a sweet port. My Russian mates bring me back when they go to Russia and so on. Yeah, it's not funny. That mother-in-law's milk was, I don't know, I think it's probably legal by now. I mean, I was like 16, 17 when this guy made me taste it, and it was like, he had a bottle of this stuff, and it was like, kind of like, wasn't this shape, but it was about that much of it had been used. And he told me, he said, the only thing that has been taken out of this bottle is capfuls to make my friends taste how disgusting it is. And I believed him. It was truly disgusting. Whiskey just transports itself into my bloodstream via osmosis. Yep. Minno, all this talk of alcohol, I'm gonna check it if the moonshine bottle has evaporated. Moonshine evaporates, and then you have crippled children with your sister. That's what happens. I know, because my good friend, which I sometimes impersonate, Jebediah Lovemore, knows all about rednecks. The moonshine evaporates in the night. By morning, the sisters are all pregnant with their brother's child. That's what happens. No, Jägermeister. Ellis says, are you thinking of Jägermeister? It's sadness and hate in a bottle. No, Jägermeister is the sweet honeydew of a pretty girl compared to this mother-in-law's milk. Honestly, it's undescribable. It was like, I don't know, liquid earwax and donkey piss mixed in fucking rotting mushrooms or something. It was foul. It was truly disgusting. It was something that you want to brush your tongue with afterwards. Mandy says she's laughing her ass off. I just bought a bottle of Four Roses bourbon and German milled wine. I can't wait to heat up the spice wine on a cold day. It is still hot here in Florida. Yeah, you see, mulled wine that you buy in a bottle, I think sucks. I learned to make vin brûlé, which is the correct name, which is French for burnt wine, from my mother and my grandmother. What you did is, so you pour the wine in a little pot, in some kind of a frying, in a pan, and you heat it up over the fire, and when it sort of gets hot, bubbly, you light with a match or with a lighter, you light the alcohol so it catches fire. There's a flame inside the pan, and you can control it. If you let it boil more, the flame gets bigger. If you take it off, the flame goes out. But you also add cinnamon powder in it, and or cinnamon sticks if you have, even better, and cloves. Not garlic cloves, cloves. I don't know what they're called in English, really. We call them chiodi di garofano, which, if you translate, literally means nails of garofano. I don't know what the translation is in English, but they're like little. They look like little nails, like little spikes. And you put some of those in. You put some cinnamon sticks in, and some sugar to taste. And that beats the crap out of any of the mulled spiced wine that you buy around. It just, I don't know, it really tastes quite different. Jäger makes cough syrup taste good. Yeah. Oi, Jägermeister is delightful. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Jägermeister. What is the quinoa? Is it quinoa? Can't remember. There's an Italian alcoholic drink which is sort of medicinal almost, and it's made from the what do you call those things? Artichokes. It's made from chinar. That's what it's called. Cynar, chinar, and it's quite bitter, but I like it. It's my liver enjoys it. I've got a funny liver that will get fucked up by one glass of red wine, but I can drink half a bottle of tequila and feel no pain at all. Hello, Emperor Kurgan. How goes the new baby? The new baby is delightful. She's truly an astonishing little baby. Had a nice little chat with her today. Got a couple of pictures of her smiling at me. Really nice ones. She's very awesome. She's quiet. The only thing is she's unfortunately inherited my belly, which my boy did as well when they're young. I think as he gets older, he's becoming more like he's got his English mother's stomach and probably can eat, you know, rotting dogs and he'll be fine. Although I have to admit his farts are something to be experienced, right up there with the mother-in-law's milk type stuff. And now he has learned to enjoy farting at you. So he farts at you and then he laughs. While the little one has still got a bit of belly aches. But yeah. Well, my faithful zealots, it's now been more than 2 hours that I'm talking, so unless you have some pressing questions about your laser rifle in Traveler or something. Oh yes, milk thistle, I have it. Yeah, I know. I use it whenever I remember. And Mandy Jones says she will make her own when she has her husband so I can enjoy. I have a broken heart most of the time, being in a long-distance relationship. Thank God I am blessed. We do not have to question our loyalty. Well, I hope that's the case, but you know, planes, boats, and so on still exist, and I know they're making it very difficult to travel, but it's not as difficult as you think if you go for it. What do I think about a Unabomber? I haven't studied him enough. He was some pretty crazy fucker. I don't know. He probably had some one or two good ideas. I don't know enough about him, but you know, generally speaking, the idea of bombs doesn't sit very well with me just because they're sort of an indiscriminate type of weapon. That said, you know, I suppose it depends who you're bombing, I guess. I don't know. LS says that he used to shoot Jag and chase it with Pabst. My distaste for it may be my own fault. You think? Autarky Bear says I have many sisters, 7, and there is nothing like have another baby girl in the family. I'm happy everything is going well. Oh, she's awesome. You know, I sort of thought, oh, well, it's a girl, it's not going to be a boy, but it really doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl. Once you have a child, they're all awesome. Andy drinks milk thistle every day. I should probably drink some of it every day. Ted Kaczynski, yeah, I know he was, and he was against industrial society. Yeah, okay, but you know, you're not gonna change it by bombing people. Just go live in your fucking cabin and keep the rest of them away from you, or start a citadel. All right, guys, it's been a long stream. I meant to only do like a half hour, as usual, 2 hours and 17 minutes. So, Woolly Ram, get yourself ready for next Friday night, and we will do a role-playing game one. Yeah, I need to go to sleep. Good night, everybody. Thank you for entertaining me and each other with your cool questions and comments. And may your swords remain sharp, especially when you get attacked by a bunch of rapist gnolls. Some of you will know what that means, and some of you won't. Good night, and God bless you all.